Right, Zels, to try and get a connection here was like trying to be Wales and score a try, score a point, just score something. They won the anthems, they won the pre-match. It is rugby's greatest stadium to go watch a game. I had a seat on the halfway line, 20 meters from the first point of contact. At times, I felt like I could be in that scrum, but I just didn't want to be wearing the host jersey. Incredible performance from the Boks, 73-0. And as I said to about 1,000 people last night, into the early hours of this morning at the walkabout, when I was screaming to them like that, and they were screaming back, it wasn't about Wales. It was about us. It was our performance. And I think that's what Rassie and Sia spoke about as well. It was the fact that they got naught, not that we got 73. It was the fact that Kabakani was stealing a ball in the 79th minute, 59 seconds into the 80th minute to turn over the ball for Kobus Reinach in his 50th to calmly just put it into the crowd. That is what defined this season for me. 73-0 up, and the Springboks are fighting to keep the opposition out 14-15 to make sure that they blank them. Incredible!
Right, absolutely incredible. We speak about the Bok strength and their power, their traditional brutality. We all know about it, but very seldom in Bok history do you get the sense that you got with the All Blacks when they were at their best, that they were just in total and utter control of the game. It was almost a day at the office. The Boks often look like they're having to sweat to get the job done, but this Bok team is changing that. Just the level of absolute supremacy in every department of the game was just something to behold. It was unusual. We expect the guys to go out, throw punches, make massive tackles, fight for everything, scrap. But there's almost a level of desperation you're used to seeing in the Bok performance. There was no desperation in that performance. They knew they were better. They proved they were better. They played like they were better. And in every contact, every collision, every set piece, every technical facet, they just showed their supremacy. And it was almost like, okay, job done. And that's not to take away from the effort that was in it, but just the complete and utter control of the game was really something to behold.
Well, Nick Mallet on SA Rugby Magazine said earlier in the week, or on the podcast he does with Gav and Brendan Nell, talking Boks, he said they've got to build an innings, to use a cricket parlance, and you still got to get to 100 in cricketing terms. You can't get there in the first over. Maybe in a few AB de Villiers and there's a few no balls, but he said build an innings because the seduction of the occasion, because look, there were 50,000 people there, but I think 49,000 South Africans, and that the Principality takes 75,000. So there was no expectation of anything from Wales outside of the hope that their team would actually arrive for the game. Okay, they were missing 13 players because of club commitments. We were missing 25 players, but we have another 40, so that's the good thing. And I asked Rassie and Sia at the press conference. Firstly, Rassie, the message all week was don't be seduced into a Harlem Globetrotters kind of exhibition match. Don't play barbarian style rugger with these guys. And he said that was obviously the message, that they had to keep to their structures. They had to be clever in the way they played. They have to show a lot of rugby IQ. And then see how do you enforce that? Because you've got guys who are chomping at the bit to get out there and to prove to Rassie they should actually be playing every week. You've got guys who've hardly played on tour who want to. There's always that possibility of it being a complete bugger up because of over enthusiasm, Oaks trying too hard, individuals wanting to make their mark, knowing that we're never going to lose this test. And with that Rassie Rice smile, he looked and said, maybe we learned from the Australian game at Ellis Park, okay? That it doesn't matter how fast and how well you start, when you look up and you've just depowered your own big weapons because they can't move in terms of those incredible forwards. And he said the talk all week had been, forget Wales, forget whoever we're playing. This is about focusing on the Springboks. This is about showing yourselves and showing the world how far they've come since they've won the World Cup as a team. And so it didn't matter which 23 he put on the field. It's like at 9 crappies, you've got a job to do. 10 sachets about game management, not about 5 individual tries. Damien at 15, you've got to control that back three. You've got a young winner in Ethan Hooker there. You've got a guy who's gone between the centres and win in Kane and Moody. And then obviously more so with the back 5 of the scrum than the front 5 is how do they control the breakdown, And then also when it came to the halfbacks and Damien, play the game in the right areas, which means play it in the Welsh, between the Welsh 22 and the 10-meter line, and let's play the percentage. And then when it's on, we use our natural talents. And if you take some of those tries, it was just incredible phase play on pure physicality and brute force to get those yards. But then the slick handing of the backs. I mean, Andre the Giant, you've been his biggest fan since for the last 10 years. That's the kind of performance we used to see him play at Harlequins next to Marcus Smith. Played for the Sharks before he went. He was just, I don't think I've seen a centre bulldoze so many oaks so often within 80 minutes. And his love for the breakdown now. I mean, it's like he bulldozes, gets up and basically goes to steal a ball as well. He just wants to be involved. He's been the transition from centre to flank for that guy. He is now a centre who plays flank and a flank who plays centre in the way he plays. He's backing himself. It's the most confident performance I saw from Andre the Giant. And obviously to have the all that experience of Damien Delandy on his outside. I was so chuffed for Andre the Giant, the big guy that he got the player of the match, but he was so deserving of it and so humble and understated at the end as well. And I think Zels, that's been the key factor for me just being in here in Cardiff for the last few days, is just how humble this Boks squad is through their leadership, through Sia and through Rassie, and just how good they are when they get out on the field.
Yeah, look, I 100% share your sentiments across the board there. Andre the Giant, you can see he is loving his rugby like never before. And I totally agree. I think the time spent getting closer to the meat and potatoes of the breakdown has probably given him a bit of a shift in perspective in how he plays the game. But yeah, it's just brought the best out of him because now he's marrying that skill set that he's worked so hard on with the incredible force that massive chassis of his can generate. So it's been fantastic to watch, man. Across the board, I thought everybody had a great game. Ethan Hooker came out of the blocks like he was on fire. Hopefully that guy, we get him more involved next year because everything he touches turns to gold. He's supreme in the air. Just what a player. And Gaza's continued improvement at fullback and sort of just the professionalism and the kind of composure that he's operating the backfield with at the back there is great to see. Sasha with the electric moments again, as we expect from him. And then just fantastic to see Kirby get on for his 50th and do his stuff. So across the board, total control of the game. It was fantastic to watch that bomb squad come on, mate. What were the oohs and ahs from the crowd as those guys stood up and stretched out to get on the field?
Well, there was just applause because in front of me was just so many South Africans, and on 49 minutes, when you just when the Welsh out got sent, we had just scored, and then you just heard this rapturous applause. You just knew 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 got up. And then just to confuse them, Dwayne Vermeulen was kitted out with the matchday socks and his boots. So, and I think the Welsh so don't tell me he's coming on as well. I was expecting Rassie to make a turn there. Dwayne and Rassie coming on for one last hurrah at the Arms Park. And now, obviously, the Principality Stadium. But yeah, there was, I think, from the South African point of view, more so, there was an appreciation for a lot of people who haven't perhaps got to see the Boks play live, that they got to see a team of world champions, a lot of the new generation mixed in with those double World Cup winners, and they really produced a world champion performance. It's anyone coming to say, I've heard a lot about these green and gold monsters, even though they're playing in white today, would have left thinking the hype is justified. Everything is true. So Wilco Lowen and Steenekamp, outside of doing their primary job so well. I mean, every time that scrum went down, I think the only shock of the game was there was one scrum engagement that there was a penalty awarded to Wales. I don't think Wales could believe it.
I think they sent the ref for an HIA after that.
They did as well. And the Welsh guy said to him, what's going on, mate? We don't want to scrum down.
Are you okay?
But I think the guy who was smiling the most was Andrew Porter, somewhere in Dublin, thinking, I know how you feel, mate. Every time he looked at those front rows. But and Krobby's to get through the kind of amount of work he did, to see Bongi back again and looking fired up. It just shows you again, change of environment. I just thought Bongi played with such enthusiasm. He had oomph in his game, something we haven't seen for a while at the Sharks. Jean
Yeah.
Klein got through a ton of work. Ruan Nakia for me has been the last 2 seasons. He's just been the unheralded hero of that pack. And
Yeah.
shout out again to Jake White for taking him, playing him on the flank for most of last season, and
Yeah.
saying that this could be the natural successor to Sos in terms of his ability to play 5 lock and 7. And then talking of Sos, I mean, that guy was just loving rugby again yesterday. Again, just rejuvenated. He looked refreshed. Sia King Kolisi leads from the front. Jasper just, I mean, every time they kicked off to Jasper, this raging bull. And I'm like, why? Why are you guys doing that? And and back he came, and then when the subs came on as well, I mean, they were just nothing. When you put on 8 subs at the same time, my voice is nearly going there. Oh, put on 8 subs. You put on 8 subs, you expect the game to basically lose all shape. And I thought at 49-0, there's a potential this one ends 66-19. Two intercepts, try to Wales, and I felt that I hope it doesn't, because the preceding 49 minutes didn't justify that kind of ending, and it didn't lose shape at all. And that goes down to the coaching and the leadership, and the captaincy had changed by that time, but the intent of the players hadn't, and that the halfbacks, Kirby had come on, Damian Willems again. There wasn't the magic offload every moment. There wasn't the magical step. There wasn't the 10 meters from the try line. I'm just going to sling a pass out to Hooker and see if he can do anything. There was absolute control in everything they did. They were clinical. They were effective.
Totally.
And the way they beat Ireland up the week before and just kept them in the arena and kept on pounding them to make a point to the Irish psyche, you felt that this was a statement that they wanted to make to the world, that we can play the complete game. And the complete
Yeah.
game isn't 80 minutes of razzle and dazzle. The complete game is you do your primary basics error-free, you control the lineout, you control the scrum, you get half a yard every time in the collision, and then you've got the most wonderfully talented backs who can turn anything into advantage. But it's a lot easier to do when you're attacking 30 meters out than when you're playing behind the game line 30 meters from your own try line. I thought in the last years, and again, given context to the quality of the opposition, I thought this was the most complete performance. And if it was a contact session over 80 minutes, they would have come off after on the Thursday afternoon and said, a great team dinner tonight, because if we can play as well as we trained, no one will score points against us. And that's what actually happened out there. And I think it was also an eye-opener to a lot of the Welsh players, that there's a reason they talk about the Springbok squad like they do. And when they said they were with minus 13 players, we could name a starting 15, the equal of the one that started yesterday, that wasn't even in the country.
Yeah, no, 100%. You spoke about Ruan Nakia and Franco Orsted. Obviously, that's Sort Leopold and Sos. That's obviously just in their names, they're a great combination. Definitely the heart and soul of the work effort in that match. I thought the Boks got a bit lucky, mate. The game probably changed forever when Tane Plumtree got that yellow card, mate. If he hadn't gone off, it might have been 73-3 or even 73-6, mate. We'll never know. Referee changed the game then. As much as I love the Boks, I'm not sure it's fair to have Franco Smith be the referee, mate. I don't know. It was a step too far.
I know, but it could explain what happened to Glasgow, because he was in Cardiff.
Exactly.
Because they got blanked as well. Unbelievable stuff in the URC.
Incredible.
We're going to talk URC
Yeah.
just now, but it's been an incredible experience. And I'll say to anyone, if you can get to the Vegas Strip in Cardiff for a Springbok test or any test match or any kind of big final in Cardiff, that stadium is, I'd been there several times, but I hadn't been there for a while. And you know what they say, out of sight, out of mind. It was a great reminder again of just how rugby should be played, where it should be played, and the atmosphere. The pre-match is befitting a rugby royalty, and that was the Boks on the day. But Zels, from minute 1 to minute 40, the only music you hear is the anticipation of the crowd and the voices of the crowd. And then at halftime, they put on a great show. And the second half, from the moment the kickoff is, you just hear the ebbs and flows of the crowd, either cheering, or in awe, or you can just say palpable angst. And I just hope people in South Africa who are in leadership roles were watching that and thinking, let's kill off this crap music that we play for 80 minutes in our home test matches, and let's get back to a rugby atmosphere, because nothing beats a compelling game of rugby, test rugby, when there's an atmosphere and the crowd is providing your symphony to whatever's going on in terms of what the players are doing. So, yeah, it was just a wonderful way to finish for Russians here. 27 wins out of the last 31 since they beat Tonga at the World Cup. That's the consistency that they
Wow.
wanted. They've won everywhere away from home. They've won more matches away from home than they've won at home. And they've beaten every team there is to beat. And they've done it using 55 players over 2 seasons. Someone asked the question to Rusty afterwards, don't you think you should give your youngsters more game time? And then he did a double take. Excuse me. Zach Porthen,
At loose
Kane
head.
Moody,
Yeah.
he went through the whole list. Tabakani, Krobis, who's now come through and played, and he went through the ages as well. And he said that they're very well positioned. An interesting thing he also said was this was the year that they wanted to try and go get as many wins as possible, get as many test caps in as possible, and next year they start the rivalry tours there, and after that he says they start preparing basically for the World Cup, and kind of said the emphasis wouldn't be it's a win at all costs in the inaugural Nations Championship. Said the World Cup is bigger than that one, so there may be a very different approach, he said, to next season. With he picks the rivalry tour as the primary focus, and the next year it's the World Cup. But I think he was so pleased that so many guys have come through. And again, keeping Sasha's feet on the ground. The Welsh media obviously raving about Sasha. And he's like, hey, he's improving. Damian Williams is 27. He's played 10. Marnie Lebox, 28. He's there. 100 Pollard, he said he's 31. He's won 2 World Cups. He's there. This kid is 23. Allow him to play and stop putting him on a pedestal every game. He scored 28 points, but we scored 73. So that reminder there is the whole time that he says he knows what Sasha can do individually. He knows how brilliant he is.
Yeah.
That's why he got picked. He said, but he also needs his 10 in a World Cup final to control proceedings throughout and be calm. And he said that's the biggest growth area he's seen in the rugby championship with Sasha is it's not the miracle ball every time. The miracle ball's always there, but it's not every time. And it's playing in the right areas and that game management. But I just really like the way Gaza at 15 and Sasha at 10 worked. And they worked. They were so powerful yet understated in doing the basics well. And then when they had to turn on the magic, they did. So it was an incredible afternoon, blighted in the 79th minute with Evans, a thumb to the eye. And, we know that Evan hasn't played a lot of rugby for the Sharks. And there's been a lot of talk that he plays for the Springboks more than he plays for the Sharks. But I've been trying to find out what he said to that Welsh guy. And as that thumb went in, I think he was saying 3 weke, 4 weke, 5 weke, 12 weke, 12. Because apparently the Welsh guy said he keeps on everything called 12.
Well, so Easter reckons that everyone should just say that somebody was grabbing his genitals, mate. You don't need to have any video evidence anymore to prove it. You could just say somebody grabbed his genitals. That's the reason he reacted like that. And it's all fair in love and war. Isn't that how it works now?
Yeah, and who was it? So one of the Boks.
Sorry.
the first time that the Welsh won a ball at the breakdown. But sitting with some of the Welsh journalists afterwards, they were like, "Oh, what a great play! What a moment of madness! That will rule him out for the whole URC and Champions Cup." And I said, "I know. I don't know if you can worry about that."
Mate, he's absolutely gonna have a great opportunity to get his body in the best possible condition and be raring to go for this epic series against the All Blacks.
Look, I think he would say to them, guys, give me 6 months, I'll be okay with it. Give me 6 months, I'll be back in
his career. Yeah. But listen, all jokes aside, obviously, yeah.
No, I'm saying that was the one thing that blighted the night, and as Tia said afterwards, Rassi said straight, ready, can't disagree with what he saw. let the judiciary do their thing. He said, but please let that 30 seconds from the end not blight what was a great November. Excuse me, 5 matches, 5 wins, 73-0 in the last game. Let the talking point not be just Eben's moment. But
Yeah,
obviously it will be
yeah.
in Wales.
Yeah, exactly. Here we are talking about it. But I mean, in all fairness, I don't think. I mean, the optics are bad. Excuse the pun, and obviously he's going to get a suspension. I don't think Evan was going out there to try and gouge a guy's eye out. We've seen Evan get hot before, and it never ever, as much as he grabs the oak's throat and looks like he's going to kill him, he never ever crosses the line. So I wonder how much of this was Evan just ricking that oak and his hand happened to be in the wrong space at the wrong time. I don't think he went out to gouge the guys out. I mean, it's inconsequential, but that's just my personal opinion.
No, on second 23 to 29, it looked all right. He wasn't giving up.
Yeah, geez.
Yeah, no, look, it looked messy on the TV in real time. It looked even messier in super, super slow-mo. So,
Yeah.
look, I think he can expect a lengthy ban. But like I say, given the fact that he has battled with concussions, lower back, various injuries for the Sharks since his arrival, maybe his body also just doesn't need the rest. Maybe it's the universe who stepped in and said, mate, we need to take you out of domestic rugby for a while and get you ready for the greatest rivalry and get you to that 150 test caps by the next World Cup. So,
Yeah.
given aside, because he had played well when he came on, he scored a popular try, just a wonderful way to finish the year on the tour. Zels also, the boys scored 222 points, and I think at an average of 40, they conceded an average of 10 points, 7 tries to 1 they were scoring, and they kicked just 4 penalties in 5 games. That's how boorish these guys are, okay? And 2 of
Wow.
those penalties were when they had to kick it when they were player down in Paris, and obviously when Pollard kicked that early one when they were a player down in South and they had to slow the game down in Turin against Italy. So I'm feeling euphoric on the Sunday morning in Cardiff, and it's not because I'm going down for a greasy spoon breakfast just now. It's just that it was just wonderful to be at a stadium and to see the Boks showcase all their talents and do it in such a splendid, intelligent, brutal, and powerful rugby manner.
100%, mate. I mean, I can't add more to it than that. I absolutely agree with that. I don't know if you want to take Eben on his way out as a segue into the URC, but things were not pretty for the Sharks later on Saturday night in Galway, and they are rooted near the bottom of the table.
Mate, I just saw the results. I was busy working. I saw 21-6 down in Limerick. I said, come on, Dobbo! What have you done, Zels? And then Bill Johnson sent me a message and he said, Dobbo is doing special things. And I thought he was taking the piss. And then I saw you had won. I saw the Sharks had lost. I got a message from Asa to say the Bulls were getting trampled. The Lions were on fire. So I've seen nothing. I'm going to have to watch it when I get home this week. So talk me through those games, please.
Yeah, so the Bulls, mate, got caught trying to out Lions. The Lions, I don't know if Uckers forgot that he's coaching the Bulls. He's got these heavyweight forwards, and basically it was just a wild shootout, shooting from the hips, mate. It was like a John Wayne movie, and that's exactly where the Lions thrive. And obviously, they outcome the Bulls in that scenario. The defense of both sides not great, and that just left the game in a very much sort of transition attack phase. So the Bulls want to go back to the drawing board and probably get a little bit more control over how they can control the speed of the game and not sort of get roped into that when they play the Lions. But that was a surprise result. Fantastic for the Lions to pull it off, mate. They scored some spectacular tries. Nico Stain on the end of 2 of them. All court, all personnel kind of tries. Fantastic to see it happen. The Lions have now leapfrogged the Bulls on the standings. They're 1 place ahead of them in 7th, I think it is. Sharks are still, I think, 14th on the table, mate, having lost it to Connacht in another forgettable performance where they just couldn't put it together. Yeah, they did all the tackling, but not so much all of the kicking, and the game got away from them. And then the Stormers recovered from being 21-6 down in the first half against Munster. 3 late tries in quick succession in the fourth quarter, and they overtook Munster at the end for a famous first victory at Thomond Park, mate. Spectacular sort of gut check performance, just the character of the team on full display, refusal to die. I've been involved with Dobbo and those guys on and off since they were in the Vodacom Cup, and that's been a consistent theme of their teams. I called them the cardiac kids back in the day because they were just real teams in from massive deficits and win games in the 84th minute. And there's traces of that in this team again. So really, really good performance and a great win.
And Jan de Villiers, I see he was the player of the match. Worthy recipient?
Yeah, absolutely. Paulie's just something else, isn't he? Just an absolute force at the breakdown, fearless, gets stuck in, puts his head right into the chainsaw, mate. And obviously against a team like Munster that are overtly physical and really challenge you around the tackle points, that's when you've got to be at your bravest, but also your most clinical because you can't concede penalties. I thought he was outstanding, but one of several guys that put their hands up in a big way. Scrum came through. Sheer physical force in that second half on the bench was outstanding.
And psychologically, an incredibly important performance for the Stormers as they chase a home playoff game, ideally to finish in the top two, which helped you for a semi-final and a final. They were missing 5 of their Springboks who were in Cardiff doing some amazing things. Outside of Jean Klein, Munster were at full strength. That's as strong as Munster can get. At Thormond Park, Limerick, where they've never lost to the Stormers. So pioneers, history makers, that's 6 from 6 for the Stormers, and 4 of those wins have been overseas in the Northern Hemisphere. That's the most incredible thing, that most of the remaining schedule is in South Africa now, and most of those games are at home. So they are so well positioned to kick on from here. And I believe it's all down to you. Since you've arrived there, Zels, things have changed for the Stormers. They've become a very, very intelligent team.
No, mate, I can't take any credit. I said to the one bloke said that to me on Twitter. I said, mate, when Rambo took down that Hind helicopter, that Soviet chopper, mate, I was more like Rambo's headband in that HE tipped arrow that he fired into the chopper. So, no, these guys have done a great job, mate. As we've seen towards the end of last season and the regular season, they put those wins back to back to back. And aside from the great character in the side, I think technically their sort of game model is very much over the target. So, on point.
All right, so URC is now done and dusted. They'll be back at the end of the last week of the 20th. It's going to be the Lions in Cape Town against the Stormers. That's the pre-Christmas game. And after that Lions win now, that game all of a sudden gets meaning, it gets significance, and we'll get a 40,000 crowd. We're going to be focusing for the next fortnight all on the Investing Champions Cup. We're going to be bringing you all the news. The 3 South African teams, that's the Bulls, the Stormers, and the Sharks, who will be playing. The Bulls are hosting the defending champions, Bordeaux, this weekend. Well, they'll have their Boks back, though. They'll be a lot better. Maybe they just kind of lulling Bordeaux into a false sense of security about what happened against the Lions, okay? When I heard the result of the Lions as well, and when I got to the walkabout last night, Robbie Wessels was playing everywhere, okay? And I'm sure that's how Cass and the boys were walking last night. But it's going to be great. We're going to be bringing you our Thursday special is going to be our introduction to the champions, the Investing Champions Cup. There's great games. The Stormers are playing away to Bayonne. Manu Tsalagi says they're waiting for them. They're a popular team. The Sharks will be in action as well. Thursday is going to be dedicated fully to every one of the matchups. We'll talk about all 24 teams, and I'll talk in greater detail about interviewing most of those players when I was in London earlier this week. But Zels, it's Sunday, Mac's birthday weekend. I know that went well. I told everyone Zels couldn't be here because it was my team Mac's birthday, and they said, what a great dad. But tell Mac to come with next time, okay? To Cardiff. And they agreed. Whenever we go on the road, you can't promote and sell yourself as Sonny and Sher when Sher's not there.
Which one of us is Sher, mate?
You Sher, baby. I got you, babe. Have a wonderful day, brother. Thanks for everything.
You too, mate.
And I'll see you. We'll see you in Cape Town in a studio with the wonderful Imad, and we'll talk Investing Champions Cup Rugger on Thursday.
Enjoy that greasy breakfast, mate.
Thanks, mate.
Ciao.